The annual inspection process is something that most airplane owners do not look forward to. Ever wonder what really happens on an airplane annual inspection? Stick around. We're about to get really deep into our annual inspection on this episode from The Fire Pilot. Welcome back. I'm The Fire Pilot, where we make videos about aviation that nobody watches and are generally boring. As an aircraft owner, there are expenses that you can plan for, and then there are those that are unplanned. One of the biggest yearly expenses that an aircraft owner can expect is sometimes the dreaded annual inspection. An annual inspection is just what it says, an inspection of your aircraft every year to ensure safety and function of its systems. It's required, not optional. For general aviation, the FAA has regulations that pertain to the annual inspection. They're called FARs. A FAR is a federal administrative regulation that sets the rules for all federal agencies. For aviation, most everything we're concerned about falls under Title 14, kind of like a chapter. Going over those I'll leave to a separate video, but for the annual inspection process, we're concerned with two specific FARs, Part 91.409 and Part 43, Appendix D. Now, without speaking all lawyerese and losing the three of you that'll probably watch this video and stop halfway, the first part, 91, says that an annual must be done. The second part, 43, Appendix D, says what must be done on an annual. Now, for all of those aviation experts who may come across this video and comment about, oh, you're wrong and you're a terrible pilot, you're right, I am. But there's way more to it than that. I try to break things down so that people can relate and understand it. Feel free, comment away. For a pilot owner, this is a pretty scary time. You're leaving your airplane in the hands of somebody who has the sole ability to determine whether your aircraft will ever fly again. They could ground it. You have to find somebody who is trustworthy, and you have to find somebody who knows the fine details of your airplane enough to make it safe, but has enough common sense and experience to know what's important and what's not. Now, don't take that the wrong way. The attitude that you should have towards your aircraft is that if it's wrong, you should fix it. Trust me, you won't care what it costs when you have something that goes wrong when you're flying. If it is not right, make it right. We dropped off our plane at TAS Aviation in Defiance, Ohio, a worldwide leader in twin Cessna maintenance. You can see the history and the reasons why we did that in our previous video. Check that out if you haven't seen that video. Now, we aren't sponsored by TAS, but we did work out a plan for them to document as much of our annual inspection as possible. So let me turn it over to TAS. Several of their mechanics are going to explain the steps that it takes to get our airplane initially prepped for the inspection. Now, let me warn you, it gets deep, really deep and technical here, but we wanted to show how involved and intimate this process gets. Here you go.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started opening up 38 Yankees inspection panels. We're just gonna pull everything off, the spinners, the fuel, the bowls and everything. All the panels on the wings. We're gonna pull the cabin out so you can get to the flight controls, just so that our inspectors can get in there and look everything over and start writing up squawks. So we're gonna go ahead and get started on this today. Should be pretty fun. So here we go. All right, so something like this that we find during opening crew, this panel is missing a cam lock right here. So we're gonna go ahead and note that, and we'll have that written up for when we start working squawks. All right, so we've got the engines opened up. I'm gonna leave the wings to some other guys. So right now what we're gonna do is start to pull the cabin out. Right below us is your gear motor, all your flight control cables, your flat motors, all that stuff that we need to get to and inspect to make sure that the plane is going to run properly. So I'm going to run the footage and let you guys see me tear it apart here. Looks a little more bare in here without all the panels. So we've got all this opened up. We can get to the flat motor, which is right in front of me there, our gear motor, and all of our flight controls, which are all of these cables going down into the hellhole. So that's what we're going to be doing during our flight controls portion. it's me, back again. There are donuts in the shop. Donuts are what make mechanics go round in the gut, and also keep us fueled for another day of fixing your airplanes. Bring us donuts.
Now, as you can tell, the amount of labor that goes into simply the inspection of the airplane is immense. Every inspection plate, the cowlings around the engine, the carpet, the floor, everything must be exposed in the airplane so you can inspect its condition and function. As they go along, a list of problems began to be tallied. This is referred to as a squawk list. These are the things that make you a very, very poor person. They get expensive really fast. As the inspection is going on, I get a preliminary phone call from Marla. Listen to this.
That we found something really screwed up in your flap system.
Now, things clearly aren't going as well as I had hoped. I never noticed a flap issue before. My flaps actually worked, but that was because of the limit switches. Flap motors are $2,500. This could be a bad sign. A couple of days later, after I process that one, I get the rest of the story. And boy, is it a long story. The next phone call was a meeting between Marla, who you've met in the previous video, as well as Brent. They found everything that has ever been touched on this airplane, or in some cases, never been touched. This is a list of nearly 150 squawks on the airplane, 32 pages. To be fair, some of these were simply notes for my own information. It wasn't actually things that needed to be corrected or fixed. I was a bit overwhelmed. Here are the big issues. Let's go through them. First, on my left propeller, it needed resealed. It was throwing grease. The left alternator needed replaced. It was throwing oil out of the exhaust at the bottom. I needed new alternator clutches for both left and right engines. The right vacuum pump had sheared its shaft and it needed replaced. We needed a new flap motor based on what we talked about before. We needed a new nose gear tire. We had some fuel leaks that really needed to be replaced. We were losing fuel. Maybe the biggest that could have caused some major issues down the road, our right and left nose gear trunnion supports were cracked. This could have led to the dreaded nose gear collapse on one of my hard landings I seem to frequently get. Now, if that happened, potentially, both of my engines would be shot. One of the great things about having a good shop, though, is that they can recommend what must be fixed now, what you should fix now, and what you could probably defer to a later maintenance date. Let me show you some of that process. Now, this is where it gets to be really technical, and I want you to know that they're going to go through a lot of things. I'll show you what we fixed and how we did it and the whole deal. You're going to get to know this airplane really well, just like I did. Let's take a look.
Hey guys, it's Matt from Aviation. We're starting the annual on this aircraft today, and one of the first things we'll be looking at is the alternators. We're checking to see if they have the rubber clutches. Okay, so we're back. We got the alternator off. We got all our wiring labeled. I got a rag inside the engine, so when I'm cleaning off this gasket around here, none of the gasket falls into the engine case. I'll pull this out so you can see inside the gearing and whatnot. But it has the metal clutch. Hey guys, I'm back today. I got this metal clutch pulled off this alternator, and I got the new rubber style clutch installed. This gets torqued down to 300 to 450 inch-pounds. Got my new gasket over here I'm gonna get thrown on and then put the alternator back on. Okay, we got the vacuum pump right here. You can tell the shaft is broken off. It's sitting right here on my toolbox. So we need a new vacuum pump, and we're also replacing a leaking garlock seal, which I don't know if you can see on camera. It's hard to tell. I'll try to get it there. You can see the oil on the bottom there. That's how you can tell your garlock seal is leaking. So we're gonna drill into that seal and pull it out and replace it. Okay guys, I got the old garlock seal out. You can kind of tell I had to drill 2 number 30 drill bit size holes through each side, and I took my pick and pulled it out with the pick. Got the new seal right here. I'll put some 515 flange sealant on there for when we put it back in. we got this nice little tool that goes around the outside of it, and you hit it with a hammer to get it into place. So I got the new seal set up in there, as you can kind of see. I'm just gonna take this and get it on the outside and just lightly tap it in. Just, you can, I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it's flush right now and I need to keep going. So I slightly feel it start to wind up. You can see it's recessed in there just a little bit. I'm gonna wipe some of that excess sealant out of there and then clean up the old gasket and put the new vacuum pump on. Here you can see we got our new vacuum pump in compared to the old one. We got our new fittings put on, and now we're gonna install it on the aircraft. And you gotta line the teeth up on the pump with the teeth in there. So kind of some trial and error for the first couple tries to kind of get some hardware started to hold the pump on there so it doesn't fall off. And hook up my vacuum lines for the de-ice system, and then we'll be done with this job and on to the next squawk.
All right, so what we're looking at right now is a leaky drain on the bottom of this tip tank right here. Kind of see up on there, it's leaking. So these two screws right next to the drain, we're gonna have to get in and replace the Parker seals around those as well. But in order to do that, we're gonna have to actually get inside the fuel tank itself. So I'm gonna take this tip tank off real quick, replace the drain, get in there. So I've already pulled the landing light out of the tip tank. We're gonna get under there and get it done. All right, now that we got the tip tank off of here, you can kind of see it up inside the back here. So this is your chipper pump. We're gonna take all of these screws out so that we can get up inside of there, get our hand in, and be able to get the nuts on the back of these screws for the drain right there. All right, so we got the chipper pump off. You can look in here inside of the fuel tank. So right down there is our drain in question. So I'm gonna get a wrench on that so we can get those screws out and drains replaced. All right, so we got the drain off and one of the screws, and one thing I did notice is that on the screws, they just have regular washers, which I think is gonna be part of your leakage issue. They should be Parker seals, kind of like this. While we've got this all apart, we're also gonna be kind of cleaning up this area around here, double checking for corrosion pinholes. We've gotten some of these before where you could just stick a pick straight up through there. It corroded all the way through. So doesn't look like that's the case on this one, but we're going to clean it up just to make sure. All right, so I mentioned earlier about how sometimes on these we get some corrosion pinholes in here, and that can be why they're leaking even when we replace the drain. So I was scratching away a little bit of paint, and you can see right there, I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but that is corroded through, so that is the source of your leak. So we're going to have to patch that and get that fixed. It's a good thing that it's right here and not like on the weld or anything. That could be bad, but we're going to drain the fuel out of this and look, see what the extent of it is. We're going to peel the rest of this away to make sure there's not more than one spot right there, but that is the source of your leak. Yeah, that's not a loose drain, that's just corrosion. All right, so I've got a light on this corrosion pinhole, so you can look right here. I've got a light inside the tank just so you can see a little bit better, but right there is the hole, so you can see through that light. That's obviously not supposed to be a hole right there. So we're gonna give that a patch and we're gonna get it all fixed up. Here's the patch installed. It's just a piece of 63,000 sheet metal with some holes drilled in it so we can still put our screws and our drain itself. And we've put some PRC around here just to keep it from leaking. We're gonna let this set up for a day or two and then put some fuel in here just to double check that it doesn't leak before we put it all back together.
So guys, we got done with the landing gear inspection. We're gonna start on some of the squawks that we found. And one of the big ones that I wanna start with is the nose trunnions are cracked. I'm gonna give you guys an idea of what that looks like. up in the nose here, these panels are your trunnions. I don't know if you can try to get a decent, can you see that crack through that rivet right there? It's like that on both sides of the landing gear. So what we have to do is we have to take out the whole nose mechanism and disconnect your drag brace. I'm working on getting the steering cables out of there, disconnecting everything, and there's 4 bolts that hold the trunnion on. Okay guys, this is the nose assembly when it's removed from the aircraft right here. So what I gotta do next is come in here and drill out this piece and all these rivets that go around on both sides so I can get the inner piece inside the nose out, which I'll show you when I get there. And then I'll show you the patch that we fabricate to fit in there and make everything back to factory. You can see right there, that's the crack, and that's what we're replacing the part for.
Alright, so one of the bigger squawks we have on this thing is replacing this heater plenum hose, which is this big guy that connects to your heater down here. We're in the nose obviously right now. So this is all getting replaced. It's a bit limp and crunchy. So alright, so I just got done making the inside of the plenum hose. So this is just some of this tubing wrapped in insulation and duct tape, because that's, you know, duct tape works for everything. And here's a new heater plenum hose, all nice and done. Definitely looks a lot better than the old one. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started replacing the push tube seals on this engine, which are under here and leaking. This is a pretty typical repair that we have to do on these. That's going to be taking the rocker box off, kind of moving this baffling out of the way. We'll take the actual rocker arms out, take the push tubes out, and the push rods and everything. So I'll just go ahead and show you the leakage. You can kind of see that down there next to the spring. So that's what we're trying to fix by replacing those seals. Alright, so what I've just hooked up is called a valve wizard. And essentially what it does is allows us to compress the rings here so that we can get the rocker arms out without any issue. These rods in here, the rocker pins, we'll be able to slide those out of there with less play from the actual rocker arm. Since we don't have a prop on the airplane right now, this helps us to be able to do that even though we can't spin things around. So so there's one rocker arm. So we'll take a look at some of the wear inside of there and just keep track of this. One thing I noticed as I'm taking this apart is that this washer that's right here, this is supposed to help be a spacer for the rocker arm, was missing on this side. And you can see that is the case here as well. Here's your one washer. And we're missing one right here. So that can cause wear. You can kind of see up on there. It's not that big of a deal, but we just want to note that. Okay.
All right, we are raking the gear. We're gonna start off with this right main. And what we're trying to do is bring the total travel of the gear down a little bit from the top. As you can see, it is striking, the tire is striking up against the top of the gear well. That is not supposed to happen. To adjust this, we're adjusting this fork bolt in a bit. We're gonna go in half-turn increments, and that should bring our travel down a little bit. We are also flipping this drive rod because this rivet was facing down before, causing this divot.
The squawk I'm pursuing right now is the elevator cable tensions, which were written up as being 19 when the spec is 32 plus or minus 5. These two cables here are your rudder cables, so that means this cable and this one down here are your elevator cables. Before we do any adjustments, we always like to double check that the numbers that we get are correct from rigging. So you can see that's about 31, 32. This one will take right at about 30, if you can see that. Okay, one other thing we did while we're in the cabin, this flat motor ended up getting replaced real hard time. So we stopped it right away and just replaced the flat motor since we didn't want to damage any of the cables or the flaps or anything like that. So
customer requested a quick drain installed on both sides of the aircraft. What this allows you to do is drain the oil from the engine much easier than undoing the drain plug and re-safety wiring it. They're really neat to have, and they help do oil changes much quicker and cleaner.
nut going on right now.
My bad.
You're good.
All right, so right now we are torquing down these prop nuts.
All right, we just got done with our annual. We just did a test flight, came back, leak checked everything, gave her a quick bath, and we are getting ready to send it back to the fire pilot. So this is a fun annual to work on, and we're looking forward to having it back.
A 10,000-hour airframe and the fact that the airplane had not flown much in recent years means that it needed a little extra attention. An annual inspection isn't the only time of the year you should pay attention to the maintenance on your airplane, but it's the time of the year where you have to have it already in the shop with all hands-on-deck approach to getting it put back right. Like I said earlier, you will wish you had spent the time and money to fix it on the ground when something goes bad in the air. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you. We put a tremendous amount of work into our YouTube channel for you to enjoy. Will you click the subscribe button? It's one of the only ways to tell YouTube that other people enjoy this video as well. Thanks to our Patreons for our financial support. If you'd like to do the same and get some perks along with it, it's patreon.com/thefirepilot. From all of us here at The Fire Pilot, thanks for your support, and we'll see you next time.